So, hello and welcome, guys, to another Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Pascal Steve, and on the other end, it is Steve Hall. Steve, how are you doing this week?
So, yeah, I took yesterday off the gym, today off the gym, Monday off the gym, yesterday off the gym, and I might go today just for some light training, just because sometimes I just feel better for it. Like on Monday, I just didn't want to go and train. Yesterday, I kind of thought about going, and then, like, I don't know, I needed to eat a meal and things got pushed back, and I was just like, right, I'm not going. It's dark outside. The gym's going to be busy at this time. I'm not going. But I think I'll go in and do some light, like full body training today, because I think it will just like make me feel a bit more invigorated. Do you ever find that when you relax too much, it's like, now I feel even more tired than I should?
100%. I mean, if ever there's a time where then you can just like lie on the couch on a Sunday, not do anything at all, which is rare that it happens with two kids at home, but sometimes we do this, especially when it's kind of very shitty weather outside. Sometimes at the end of the day, I feel crushed. And I still remember the times from back then when I was really kind of like also working office hours. I was crushed from the week, coming home Friday to Sunday, just lying on the couch. And then rinse and repeat that vicious cycle.
That is when you are actually crushed and you need it. Like I've had it after I come back from like a lower body training session. I'm like, I'm just going to take 15 minutes to just lie on the sofa here because I'm feeling so crushed. But when you've not done anything, like you have, because it's like the reason I'm taking days off and resting is because I've overreached probably and I need it. But at the same time, I'm like, I haven't really done anything today apart from walk aid, or I kind of want to get like, I'm feeling a little bit like I want to get in there and just like feel some stuff out and just like take the time. It's also just, I don't know, training is like part of my day. Obviously I enjoy it for the training hard, but it's also just a time I take to myself and get out of the house and breaks up my day. So I'll probably go in and just do some light stuff and see how that feels. But essentially I'm deloading, I guess.
I don't know how it is with you, Steve, but I also feel guilty on those days. Back then, right? Like a couple of years ago, I didn't feel guilty at all about something like this, where it was just like, chillaxing, relaxing. Maybe also because you're getting older and you're becoming much more aware of time, and that it sounds weird coming from a 36-year-old, right? But time is kind of running out and you're becoming much more conscious about it, that it's the most precious good, actually. Then you have also kids at home, where then time becomes even more precious because you want to first and foremost spend it with them, but also secondarily, you have less time for yourself. And also being self-employed. I now always have the feeling that I can't really allow for these type of days, when in reality I also know that they may be quite beneficial, because we've talked about it in the past already. Sometimes you have those days where you're forcing yourself to sit in front of a computer screen and nothing productive is about to happen. So you're sitting there trying to spend at least 8 hours of productive work. Nothing comes out of it, so you don't really get either of the two worlds. So you're not working, getting anything done, but at the same time, you're also not relaxing, where you then refuel your energy tanks so that you then can be better than the next day, right? It's kind of like a deload when you're training too hard during a deload and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're not getting the benefit of what you're trying to achieve there. But yeah, I tend to, at least the last couple of days, I've at least filled that time with stuff that was like productive work, like getting ahead of the week a little bit, which was useful. But yeah, I just feel like today I want to get in there and feel things out, and also get an idea of, I think I'll have a better understanding of how fatigued am I at this point. Like if I want to run the full 7 days, or if I can get in the gym a little bit sooner. In my head, I think I'm going to get in on Friday to restart things. I think Mike Chalice is coming here on Saturday. So that was kind of my also kind of impetus for deloading at the start of this week. But I don't think I could have. I got to the point, I'm sure you can relate to this, Pascal, with training, where the main sign for me is when motivation really drops off. I mean, I have to kind of force myself to go to the gym, where I'm like, I'm delaying it. And then I get to gym and I just don't have that gear where I'm like, can really push it. And I really enjoy it. I can still perform all right. But things are taking longer than they should. And yeah, I just don't have that kind of extra kick in my step. And I can deal with that for a while. But when I've had like a week of sessions like that, Whereas like things are a bit stagnant. I'm not feeling great. Motivation's dropping heavily. I'm having to force this. I'm just like, hey, even if I'm just taking a few days off, it's going to be putting me in my best stead going forward.
Yeah, funny that you're experiencing this right now, because I'm going through the same thing. I'm just dragging my ass now through the rest and the end of this mesocycle. As I told you and the listeners, I've tried to extend this mesocycle, take a short break in between, throw in a couple of more rest days, and in 1.5 weeks, I'm then going with my family onto the winter holiday, and I just need to get it done up until this point. And I'm at the point where I simply, I don't want to train right now. It's just, this has also to do with other factors as well. I'm not feeling my very best for the time being because everyone at home is sick. But at the same time, it's just like, it's a chore right now to push through it.
How many weeks when was your break, and how many weeks have you been training now?
I mean, the break was at the beginning of January, which was only kind of 3 days.
Oh.
Which was originally planned to be like 4 days. I didn't really take it though, but I threw in more rest days. Also because Katie had kind of 2 events over the last Saturdays. So often it was like 2 training sessions, 1 rest day, 2 training sessions, 1 rest day. And normally I'm doing it like this: 3 training sessions, 1 rest day, which is something I've also started incorporating. And to be honest, it felt also good over the past couple of weeks. But I'm now getting to the point where it's like, I need a proper deload for now, because it has been now 7 weeks or close to 8 weeks in the making.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
like
that makes sense.
From a proper deload perspective.
That makes sense. And actually, that's something I've been thinking about recently with like deload frequencies. It makes sense to me that someone who is always pushing the bounds like every week would need to be deloading more frequently, because they're just doing more total work more regularly. But like, I have some clients who are on very low frequencies and they just don't need to deload like 10 plus weeks easy. They can keep going because they're having like 4 days off every week. So it's like, that's already like half a deload every week.
I have it the same way with athletes that are, in quotation marks, only training 3 times, sometimes 4 times per week. With 4 times, it's kind of like a middle ground where it's kind of some people, such as I think Alberto Nunes, and I still don't know if he's still training this way, but for a very long time he was training 4 days per week. I think if you're on that level and you know that 4 days is sufficient for you and you know how to train hard and all that kind of stuff, taking a deload at some point is probably warranted. But I have definitely also athletes in my roster who don't really have that level of advancement, who don't really exert themselves that much and aren't really in the spot of putting such a stress on their entire system where it's then warranted to take a deload after 6 weeks or so. And with those individuals, especially the ones who are training 3 times per week, I'm just saying, like, we just keep on going for as long as we then may need a deload because of life, for example, happening.
Yeah, it reminds me of the same way as if you decide to diet faster or slower. It's just like, if you diet slower, you can probably go for longer. If you diet faster, you can't go for quite as long, but you'll get it done maybe a bit sooner. And similar with if you train closer to your physical capabilities, then you're going to have to deload probably sooner versus someone who, like if I was training 5 days a week, I could probably go for another 2 weeks or so than if I'm training 6 days a week all the way through every single week. Yeah. If volumes are pretty close to one another. So yeah, it's just something that I don't know if many people think about it that way, but it's just become so fundamentally obvious to me where it's like, actually, I'd have to wrap my head around it, but I might be able to convince myself that actually having 2 days off a week, Steve, you might enjoy that. And it might mean that you can actually deload less frequently, and you might enjoy that too, rather than feeling like you not need to go 6 days a week. But because I can, I do. And it's like, but maybe both options work, which they certainly will. Maybe there's hardly anything in between them. And so you could probably pick by preference. I don't know if that has any, like if that rings any bells for you, True, with the fact you've increased maybe the number of rest days you tend to take. Because you used to do 6 days through, right? And then 1 day off.
Yeah, exactly. And I've become also much more relaxed about the entire thing. Where back in the days, and I think that most people can relate to this, because I would attest it to a lack of knowledge and also experience that we have the feeling and the urge to go to the gym on a regular basis. You probably know those type of people who say like, "Ugh, I love being in the gym. Can't I just train like 7 days per week?" Sure, you can, most certainly. But I don't really think that you want to do this for the remainder of your training career. You can do it certainly for that period of time where you feel like it, that you want to do it. I don't see any kind of reason why you can't. But I'm at the point where I have gotten so much more relaxed about taking rest days. Whereas in the past, I was always like, oh shit, another rest day. Especially when you're doing a push-pull leg split and not getting 3 sessions in a row, I was getting stressed like ages ago. Right now, yeah, so be it. Like, then I may have the next leg session 5 days after the other one. Still totally fine.
Yeah. It's I'm in two minds about it because I like I it's funny. I think if I used to do, it's been a long time since I've done five days in a row and then weekend off. I did 6 days per week in, I think it was like my 2014 prep or whatever it was, one of my preps. And I was like, man, I'm not doing that again. I want my weekends off because I enjoy my weekends and I can relax and whatever. But then I remember getting to a time where I was like, man, I have this free time on my weekend where like I can just go train most weekends and I feel good. Why wouldn't I go train? But then I get times now where I'm like, especially when my rest day lands midweek, I'm like, oh, I like having a Sunday where I don't have to worry about getting up and training and I can just have it all off. Yeah. So I think it's the grass feels like it's always greener.
And it may also come and go. Sometimes you feel a little bit more energized, and I don't want to call it motivated, but it's more like you have a little bit more of an oomph sensation of wanting to actually go into the gym. And I have it most of the time in the summertime, Steve. When it's warmer outside, you're wearing a little bit shorter things and you look a little bit more jacked and all that kind of stuff. It is more fun going to the gym. You are warmed up. I don't know. I have a great... Also, it's sunny outside already, so light at least, or bright. And it's not just dark and cold, and I don't know. It just, for me personally, I enjoy to train a little bit more so in the summertime, and I then also enjoy just training 6 days per week. Right now, through the winter time, it was more like a little bit of a drag.
Yeah. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, it's just one of those things. I do tend to side with the fact that when I come back to this and I'm boiling it down for myself, where do I want to train 6 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever it is, like to find this spot. And for me, I do think it's hard to reach like a genetic ceiling. Like it's unlikely that you will. And it's more likely that age just limits you. So you just get to the age where you're just holding on to gains. And so I'm like, I want to make every opportunity I can as often as I can to grow as much as possible, to be as big and jacked as possible. Now, the difference might be like a gram of muscle for however much extra effort. But I kind of like knowing that I'm investing everything I can into that process. But I can totally see why some people are just a bit more like relaxed about that, because the reward to investment cost is far outweighing the investment cost is far higher in terms of time and effort than the reward you get at the end.
Also this, we are coming from two different perspectives when it comes to this due to the ambitions and all. But don't get me wrong, I still try my very best to then get the training sessions in. I just know, in comparison to how I was a couple of years ago, I've become much more relaxed with the entire situation. And I think it's just maturing and knowing that it's not a big deal if you now train 1 day later on that or have an additional rest day in between. Whereas in the past, it always kind of threw me off and caused a little bit of me feeling off psychologically speaking. Yeah. And now I'm just a little bit more relaxed when it comes to this. And I think it's helpful because this is also important for longevity. Because if you're always putting yourself into, or if you always pressure yourself into something that is not absolutely fundamentally necessary, I think that you're causing unnecessary stress. And this burns you out most of the time. Yeah. Right.
I think it's similar to like missing or not quite hitting the macros that you intended to for a day. Like it happens, like you can't always be in control. Yeah, for me, it's very rare, but I'm in a situation where that is quite easily the case. But if you're living a very challenging lifestyle, I don't know, work is very busy, you've had a meeting that overran and then you were straight into another meeting, or you missed a meal, but then you had to put two together and it would make you feel sick and stressed and just uncomfortable. Man, if you miss 300 calories one day, it's not a big deal. Whereas I could totally see that there's people listening where it's like, yeah, that would stress me out. Oh, it would stress me out if I had to push a session back a day. And yeah, it might in the moment for me, but then once it happened, I'd be like, yeah, that's like, it's fine, it happened. Yeah. So I think that's a really good mature place to come from. The only thing I wanted to mention in addition to was lifestyle obviously comes into this as well. Some people were commenting on, I shared my split over on Instagram. They're like, you're training upper lower, like straight through one rest day a week. You're doing quite a bit of set volume on some of these things. Like, how are you surviving this? And not everyone's lifestyle is as amendable to these sort of things as what mine is. Like I said to them, all I do is walk my dog, sit at this desk, eat my meals. I can get 8+ hours of sleep. There's no baby or child waking me up. Like I'm maximizing my recoverability. Whereas if I had all those other factors, like I was getting 7 hours of sleep, like I was on my feet working as a PT, suddenly there's no way I can handle that much volume. And so it might even be in that situation, I was training 4 days a week and still had the same deload paradigm as what I do now, because there's just so much extra fatigue from life kicking in there too. So I'm kind of coming from the same person changing their frequencies versus like different people, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%. And I think that this is great that you're bringing up this point as well, because I even had a client asking for your overall leg volume, because he had the same observations such as myself, where we brought it up, I think in the last episode or the episode prior to this, where I was kind of like, is this your session volume? And he thought the same thing. And I think it's important then to always put a little bit of nuance to what it is that you're doing, where it is that you're coming from, which is often overlooked in the world of social media. You can then always quickly come to the conclusion of like, what, I'm doing everything that this guy is doing. Why don't I look this way, for example? When in reality, it may be completely false, that you have the perception that you're doing everything the way that he does, but in reality, he's coming from a totally different background.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And well, one, I do it like, I think it was like 15 sets. If that was my weekly volume, if I had to do that in one session, the person who was asking for that is like a masochist. Like that would be hell on earth. Although maybe not for him, but probably. But yeah, I think it's actually funny because basically whenever I post a physique update, people ask me like, what do you do for your arms? And I'm like, I'm not the person to ask, because I purposely deprioritize them. I try to take them out of as many movements as possible. I put them at the end of workouts. I do them with as little volume as possible, and still they seem to grow. That's not the way to get big arms for most people. No. Like it's just, so you could be like doing more than 4 times the amount of volume I am for arms, but getting worse results. But it's just because genetically, arms are a gift for me. You might be. Are you doing 4 times as much? You might be, to be fair.
Yeah, probably.
I'm doing very little volume.
Yeah, I'm training my arms, so biceps 4 times per week. Same with the delts, also 4 times per week as well. Abs, same thing. It's just the body parts that I have to prioritize, to be honest, especially also because I was training for powerlifting for a longer period of time, and I think that this is why my upper body was lacking behind for a long time, because they're just trying to play catch up, and that's why I have to prioritize it for now years probably in order to play a little bit of catch up.
Yeah.
Which has worked out decently over the past couple of years, to be honest.
Yeah. Side delts, I'm like right there with I think I'm doing 5 times a week at the moment. And I'm like, I can't even think what my volume got up to, but certainly above 20 sets per week, comfortably above 20 sets. But abs, because I've been like just hammering calves, like I haven't got the mental capacity. Well, I probably do. You can't run everything at its max once you're advanced. Like you just can't. It's just not going to work for you. So abs have been on the kind of back burner for me, but I know they still need to be a bit of a priority because they kind of suck, but they grow so slowly. And how do you find training abs? I hate it. Like I can't find enjoyment training abs.
The thing is though, Steve, and I feel that this is the case with many things in life, You simply have to get used to it, and then you start to enjoy the process. If you do things long enough, I think that you can get used to enjoying it. I know this sounds weird, but it's just how at least I work. I don't know whether this is the case for the vast majority of other people, but every single time I'm starting to do something, even if I don't really enjoy it fully in the first initial stages of something, as soon as you're seeing a little bit of progression and as soon as you're getting used to that routine, you just keep on doing it. And it's not that I'm saying like, I love training abs or I love training calves. I could think of better things to do with my time, to be honest. But also at the same time, it doesn't really bother me anymore, such as it was back then. And I've also found certain movements that do or work very well for my abs, for example, whereas in the past, that was never really the case. And perhaps that contributed to the factor that I didn't really enjoy training them because I didn't really feel as if I'm getting something out of it. Right? And if you have that feeling, it's more frustrating. If you think like you're questioning, like, what am I even doing here? I can't feel it. I can't see it. I have no idea whether this is working or not. I think this causes a little bit more of a frustrating sensation. And right now, I'm at a point where I have a couple of exercises that I can pick and choose from. And sometimes I'm even just cycling through those. Not even sticking to a set kind of exercise schedule when it comes to abs. Because, I mean, abs, what is it? Ab flexion. Whether you do it kind of in a crunch manner, decline crunch, weighted crunch, cable crunch, I mean, the movement pattern is kind of still the same.
I think part of my problem is the reason I'm not enjoying them as much as I could is they're at the end of leg sessions because I don't want to do them at the start of upper body because I have to train my whole upper body. And I'm like, I don't want to have to do abs first. And then I don't train them at the start of legs because I do calves, but also in my head at least, and I would have to try this because I've never really done it, fatiguing my abs before compound leg movements doesn't make as much sense to me. But I don't know if it actually would take away from them or not. I've just theoretically got in my head a weaker core or a fatigue core could therefore impact my bracing.
I could also see that you're probably also quite strong on those and you have to load them more heavily. And I have the feeling, at least for me personally, training the abs with a lot of a load never really feels great. I don't know what it is, but it just feels uncomfortable. And you have to then go with much, much higher reps. At least once again, that's the case for me. And this is also then uncomfortable in its own right. So for example, cable crunches. I have the feeling that once you go beyond a certain weight, you can't really hold the weight in place anymore. And your body doesn't really stay on the ground.
You're not anchored, yeah.
Exactly. And that's why you then have to go with such light load that sometimes you need to aim for something like 24, 25 repetitions, which is also not fun at the same time because your set is taking you 1.5 minutes or so, which is not fun at all, to be honest.
I could totally see that. I've been, maybe that's something I need to try is like trying to go a little bit higher in reps. Again, I'm like, get abs over and done with as soon as possible. I have been training them consistently closer to failure, but yeah, I just, and it's actually similar to what you said where I was doing hanging leg raises and I do a shitload of them. I was like, man, I'm really feeling this in my hip flexors. My abs just aren't the thing that's getting fatigued here, and I'm executing it well. So I think to your point of selecting exercises where you actually feel the abs after the set have done the work is so key, because I think the majority of my lifting career, that was not the case. And I just went through the motions of training abs, and it's unfortunate not many gyms have good like machine crunch.
Oh man, that's true. We even have like 2, and they are not great. With machine crunches, it just feels so unnatural. Like if you really want to crunch, you have to, I don't know, move in a fashion that the machine isn't made for.
Yes.
Right? Because you want to really round in, and most of the time that's not what it does. Most of the time, it would actually then train more the hip flexors if you're not careful. Because it doesn't really allow you to really round. It kind of keeps your upper body relatively straight if you're still staying touch and contact within the back pad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of the time, the hinge of the machine is actually at the hips, and it's like actually where I want to round most is like a bit above that.
Yeah,
like in terms of getting the stretch, and so you kind of have to have your back away from the pad and like try and get this stretch. And like I have it with the TheraCrunch that they have at Yorkie's upstairs, which I've posted before, and before I really was thinking about my abs, I could shift so much weight, and I was like, hang on, like I'm using some abs, but it's very much just hip flexors here. So it's like you can't keep silent hips on that movement. The hips are moving anyway, so it's so easy just to make them the leading muscle group that's taking over the load. So yeah, man, abs. You just want to be born like Matt Ogus.
Oh yeah, man.
With the most beautiful
with Instagram
abs.
post. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew exactly who it was right from the get-go. And I'm not even following Matt that much. So yeah. He has incredible abs, man.
For those that didn't see, I posted on my story basically the thumbnail to a vlog that's come out on the members site, and it had Matt Ogus's just torso. You couldn't see his head, and I just posted it up on my story being like, guess who? And like, so I must have had 20, 30 responses of people being like, that's Matt Ogus.
It's crazy,
one person said
it?
Ryan Terry.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, the vast majority said Matt Ogus.
But that's crazy to, like, I find it very hard to know or to recognize someone based on the body part. I know that some people also did it with, for example, the chest. Is that Arnold, for example? But I find it very hard. And if you're really having a body part that is so unique to you, that's quite a feat.
Iconic. They're an iconic set of abs. So, abs, what are you doing for your side delts at the moment?
Before we talk about this, let's take a short break.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
So back at it again. So in regards then to delts, once again, we've talked about it 4 times per week. Also, they're doing just basically a lot of lateral raise variations, cable, single. So funny enough, Steve, you are acting as a source of inspiration for me of just testing things out, like the crossover cable lateral raise. Is something that I've incorporated. I love them. I needed to actually also on this one experiment a little bit to figure out how I can target my delts the best. What I found to be working best for me, at least, is having them still in more of a 45-degree angle and even bending my arms much more so than I would used to with something like a dumbbell lateral. Right, so that I'm really kind of, I don't know, squeezing it up over than the delts, if that makes any kind of sense. This one, and also the seated incline dumbbell lateral raises, and also then the leaning incline dumbbell lateral raises. These are all things that I've picked up from you, and nice. They all are fun, in my opinion, right? And I think when it comes to exercises such as these that are quite simplistic in nature, such as also ab exercises, I think that you can be a little bit more like a chameleon there as well, of just like testing things out because of the simplicity of that body part. Same also for biceps, right? Single joint movement. Not that much that you can do wrong.
But I'm completely with you with the bend in the elbow, where I've had people critique my technique on lateral raises being like, oh, that's a big bend in your elbow. Like you're just bending it to shorten the moment arm and use more load. And I'm like, know if I change to a straighter elbow, all the tension starts to move down into the elbow. Whereas if I just focus on like almost like I'm actually trying to push through the elbow, like you said, push it like, and that's all that actually matters. Like for lateral delts is taking your elbow and abducting it away from the body. It isn't your like wrist so much, like this is biceps, the elbow flexion there. So as long as that's staying static, I think that can work well. And I guess that's why some people like cuffs and maybe putting them directly on the elbow, but that always felt, I just have never got on with cuffs. I don't know if I've had the wrong pair or whatever, but D handles have always just felt good to me. And people end up using the cuff and then grab your D handle anyway. So I'm like, I might as well just do the D handle. I don't know.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And funny enough that you had people then actually DMing you about or criticizing your form.
It's got better though, actually. I've noticed I used to actually feel self-conscious about putting up any videos, but particularly like technique videos, but training videos, because there was a time, I don't know if you ever felt this way, Pascal, but you get so many people like biomechanics experts coming in and being like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this. But it actually feels like it's really leveled out where people are way less like that and picky.
I have this feeling though that it was especially prevalent in the early days of biomechanic movement. I'm not saying that biomechanics is only a development of the present now, but over when did it start? Like 2 years ago or so, something like this.
Something like that, maybe a bit longer.
At the very early stages of like that entire movement, man, so many people came onto the DMs and also on the comment section and just gave their piece. Most of the time, you could just tell that they didn't really, and this is not meant as a negative criticism, but they didn't really put in the time and effort to practically apply those theoretical concepts.
Yeah, I think it's just like a textbook learning, but lacking the experience in the gym of also working with people and seeing that people find they have to lift in a different way to feel what to get the outcome that they're looking for a certain muscle. I've certainly seen that with so many people where I'm like, and I'm less picky about it with clients too, where if their eccentrics a little bit quicker, but man, they get sore hamstrings after doing RDLs, I'm like, you know what, I'd slow it down. But if you feel great doing it that way and we can progress it like that, it's safe. Well, we're getting the outcome we need.
Yeah, same. I'm the same as well. And on that note, again, on those crossover single arm laterals, I can just feel that it's not great. Where I don't really want to feel it in the joints and connective tissue. I want to feel it in the muscle, right?
Yeah.
And we said it already in the past. Some movements that you're doing are better suited for then focusing on the mind-muscle connection, and some movements aren't. And I think that especially those single joint movements in a high repetition range, you really want to make sure that you feel it in the targeted muscle area. Same goes for the abs. I don't really want to feel it in tendons or connective tissue. And if that's the case, either I'm loading it inappropriately, where it's too heavy actually, or I'm moving in a fashion that is not conducive to the goal that I'm trying to accomplish, or not conducive to my mechanics, so anatomy.
Yeah, for sure. With your diet then, Pascal, are you still slowly gaining, or is it been like maintenance? Or
so I as already discussed earlier, I was considering actually going into a deficit, but I'm just like, I'm very, very relaxed with everything, and it's cool. I mean, I'm in a good place. I'm less focused on also then the way that I look as well when it comes to kind of chubbier or so. I don't know. I'm feeling great with those kind of things, and I don't then think that it's necessary to interrupt it. Mm-hmm. And especially now when the snowboarding trip is coming around, the food there is amazing, and I didn't really want to then go in there caloric deficit, because I know how I am. I will then stay to the true to my caloric deficit, and I love something like a Bavarian kitchen with Klöße, so Semmelknödel, the meat and all that kind of stuff. I love this kind of shit, and that's why I will be active snowboarding, and then maybe afterwards I'm going on to a cutting phase. Steve, I know that you haven't yet had Cliff on the podcast. When is the recording starting?
Next week, I believe.
Next week,
Thursday, I think we're recording. Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna actually I'll do it now. just in case anyone's listening who has questions, I'm going to source some questions from the audience, because I was like, I don't actually know how I'm going to organize that chat, because it's kind of talking about us and our coaching and kind of expectations, but I thought I'd source questions. So if anyone has questions for Cliff or me surrounding our process towards the stage this year, do comment. I'm going to put a box on my Instagram next week as well to source some questions. But anyway, continue.
And you don't have any kind of new idea on how or when the cutting phase is starting?
No, I haven't asked Cliff, but
right.
he did say at the start, he was like, he doesn't. So when I have clients and I'm taking the stage, I will create a blueprint backwards, basically. I'm sure you're probably similar.
Yeah.
He doesn't really do that from what I understand. He's much more flexible and will change things much more quickly versus having them pre-planned. So what I do know is he wanted to keep my body weight in a tight range. He has increased my food once in the time that we've been working together. So I know he's looking for me to gain very slowly. But yeah, I've been sitting at the same weight for close to a month. I haven't, not quite a month, but it's getting towards a month. My food has slowly crept up. But yeah, I think I'm getting to that point where my body is like, fuck off. It's just like, you're not gaining any more weight, mate.
Yeah.
You're going to have to force feed yourself. So my appetite kind of took a bit of a dip, but I think that was related to stress of life and also training, where I was just like, man, I don't want to have to eat. So yeah, I actually don't know when. I know it's not going to start before I go away on holiday, so it'll be after the cruise, but I'm ready, man. I just want to, you know, get into it.
When was the last time that you actually were in a caloric deficit?
Good question. I'm actually going to look it up because it was a long time ago now.
Oh.
Because let's have a look. Because I did a mini cut. When did I run that?
The last mini cut that you did was also only kind of 3 weeks in length, wasn't it?
Just over 3 weeks before your wedding.
Yeah.
So that was July.
Yeah.
Last year. So freaking ages, actually.
Yeah. Which was also the time when I was doing kind of a mini cut to actually then look good for the wedding. Look good, I mean, right? Look
fit your
slimmer.
suit.
Yeah. And also have like that chiseled jawline, which is something that I do enjoy.
It's funny, the face for us both, I think immediately when we get into a deficit just like tightens up. It's just like, that's deficit face back in good. I like that face.
I like it as well because especially with the mustache, and I may speak totally out of my ass here, but to me at least, that looks a little bit more kind of masculine, or at least my definition of masculine, like chiseled chin, mustache. And also when I look back at the pictures from the wedding with that suit on, I even made jokes about myself that I look like someone, a Wall Street guru from the 30s or so. I like this look. I like it very much.
Yeah. It was a cool look, to be fair. I don't know why I've decided to like grow out the beard a little bit. I might stop, but it was a week went past and I didn't shave and I was like, oh, it's really getting quite long. Let's just see where it goes. Let's see what happens. I look back at me when I was riding a moustache and I was like, man, that was not a good look.
No?
So
I can't really recall, Steve, to be honest.
It was most of like 2020, when I competed, it was like moustache the whole time. But I just can't grow a proper moustache, to be honest with you. So it doesn't work so well. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, dieting. Yeah, so it'll actually be really interesting because I think my body will be ready to diet. That was part of my concern of running a mini cut, because I was umming and ahhing, running mini cut, then gain, then start prep, or just gain really slowly, keep my body weight in a tight range, and then start prep. And so Cliff obviously has decided to go with that latter option, which is cool. I didn't pass the two options by him. It was like more my head, and I just wanted him to, I'll just follow whatever he says. So it's interesting. I think my body will be dropping down to like the low 180s quite rapidly, given how long it's been since it's been dieted.
But I think it's cool because also there you've learned a lot about yourself and how to go about it. You're not impatient and wanting to really push the body weight down again, trying to get leaner and all that kind of stuff. I think it's great to see that also there you very much matured and take it when it comes. And this also then allows you to really fully commit to it without any kind of underlying fatigue from, let's say, the last cutting phase or so.
Yeah. Something that was cool, actually, I posted up a Physique update. And one person, I've forgotten his name, I apologize. But I think it's Brett, maybe it's definitely a B, and he commented on my quads conditioning. He was like, at that body weight with that condition, I've like, seriously, you've probably made some gains in your legs. And I was like, he's actually right. I've never held this good condition in my quads. Like in the morning, if I pose in front of the mirror, I'm like, hey, I have like, you can see separate, like not full separation, of course, but lots of separation through my quads, which I've never had at above 190 pounds. So that does give me confidence that despite everyone being like, your upper body is looking like it's progressed loads, I think the lower body has, it's just not as obvious because it's not like a mega body part for me.
But not only that, when I saw the posing round that he did over on Instagram as well in the gym, I mean, that shot, those frontal shots, which were always kind of your weak spot, are actually very, very good by now.
On my own. If I'm on stage with someone else with a small waist, I don't know how they're going to look. Yeah, on my own, they look all right.
Yeah, but
this is my typical response.
Yeah, it could be, right? Because sometimes you really have those, the influencers or even sometimes the IFBB pros in their pre-show conditioning, amazing what is it that they look like, and then on stage it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I've seen this with a few like influencers on Instagram where you see their competition shots, you're like, okay, so like you really pick the shots where you look good to put on your Instagram, right? Like, yeah. And that's fair enough. Like I do that too, but I hope I'm a little bit more transparent than sometimes I see, and I'm like, oh, you got some really weak X muscle group that I've never seen you post before. Makes sense.
No, absolutely. But this is also something that time will tell, you know, what it is that you look like, especially when you're then very much lean. And it has been a long time since you've been like properly stage ready. And first, then you will be able to tell the differences when you then compare the last time that you've been on stage with then hopefully this year when you're then stepping on stage. And hopefully there's a lot of improvement there to be seen, which is something that I'm not in doubt of. I think that there is plenty of improvement. Now, the question is the improvement enough to be as competitive as you are hoping for, to then get the titles and get the status that you are aiming for as well?
This is something I'm going to put Cliff on the spot and be like, what are his expectations for me? I think he'll do a very like political response. Potentially, probably. I don't know, maybe he won't. But it'll be the sort of response I'd say to a client who asked me, I'd be like, you'll get to the best shape that we can bring you in.
But I'm also curious.
It will be what it will be.
But I'm also curious into how or what it is that you will look like this time around, because in the past years, you were always kind of very lean, of course, right? But I think that Cliff is very much known for bringing an insane conditioning with the vast majority of his clients. And having now him in your corner, I think he could possibly squeeze out something in you that you wouldn't have done yourself in terms of then the decision making around, should I push longer, should I push harder, or should I actually now stop because I'm at the risk of losing muscle mass? What kind of package it is that you're now bringing is something that I'm very much curious about.
Yeah, me too. That's exactly a big reason I wanted someone this year, is just to see if I was losing out on anything, not having someone just take that. And also just to experience, what does it feel like to have someone take you through that process? Because I think it'll just make me a better coach, and maybe even better about talking about the benefits of coaching, since it's been a while since I've experienced it personally. Our clients will tell us what the benefits are, and we can think about what they are, but it's a different thing having someone like going through it and having someone take you through all of that. So that'll be interesting. I don't know if has there been anything you've seen. Actually, we spoke off air and we're like, there's nothing really happened in the past like weeks to talk about.
Mate, I've seen one thing, and I don't think that it's super relevant to talk about, but because we have a little bit of time, and it's also a debate that I'm normally not going into, but it popped up in my Instagram feed, which I said to you, I'm in an inner conflict every single time I'm looking through my Instagram feed, like the glass,
Explore?
The explore function, because I have motorbikes, I have animes, I have tattoos, I have like hot chicks, and also then some kind of bodybuilders, and especially when it comes to hot chicks, I'm always kind of like, oh, fucking hell, what the fuck are they doing, and then you click on it and you feed the algorithm to then feed you back more. Same goes with a certain type of fitness influencers. They have it all figured out on how to make you click on those fucking thumbnails. And I always hate myself for it. Because there's this there's kind of a group of influencers in Germany, like fitness influencer scene in Germany is quite absurd, to be honest, especially also when it comes to supplement companies. Very much something that I despise, but that's beside the point. There's this one guy, fairly young, very much young, under 20, who has competed already naturally. And he's now posting a lot of stuff where it's always kind of like natty 19 years old bulking season. And you take a look at him and take a look at what he looked like 1 year ago, and he's not natty anymore. And also when you take a look at the comment section, like everyone kind of says like, mate, this is not natty anymore. But I think, and this is a controversial thing, and I think that this is intentionally made. Like, if you do something like this and claim it, and many, many people jump on it and comment underneath that video, you are being pushed by the algorithm.
All press is good press, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I just think like, okay, can it be that many, many people do exactly this? Like, you still remember Joe Lindner, who then passed away like last year.
With his crazy alien chest. Yeah.
He and also many other fitness influencers for a long time are always claiming natty. People jump on it, say like, this can't be real. Feeding the algorithm, they grow big time. And then years afterwards, they are then coming out and say like, yeah, I took something. But then they've already grown their business and their brand. And I'm thinking like, mate, this goes so much against my morals and ethics, but I could see why someone would actually go down that route and do this and make use of something like this in a controversial kind of fashion to push himself and also his brand.
I've seen this with people within our space even, where they've been much more outspoken, much more controversial, and for those reasons kind of getting much more attention, because that's what drives the algorithm, is like disagreement and like camps. And then they eventually side to where I would say we more so are, where it's less dogmatic, more reasonable, but now they've built that audience off the back of that. So I don't know if it's always actually like a thought out strategy or if it's just someone maturing. Mm-hmm. But in that case with the kid, like, clearly, I mean, assuming you're completely right in that he has taken gear, I mean, it sounds like it's incredibly obvious that he has with the amount of improvement he's made. He knows what he's doing.
The thing is that you and I, we have experience of what naturals look like. And there are lots of examples of people where other people would immediately claim like, hey man, I'm natty. We know this, but we also know better because we know what the natural scene looks like, because of being in that industry since such a long time. But when we're talking about the likes of, I don't know, Brian DeCosta, because you brought him up at the WMBF podcast as well, he has been in the game for such a long time. Same goes for other people as well, you know? And then you always sometimes have those freaks, such as Benjamin, for example, who just show up and are crazy. But he has already trained since a long time as well, you know? But then, because of your experience and knowledge, you also know that when someone is making a complete 180 in a matter of like 1 year, you can't help but think like, okay, this becomes unrealistic to achieve in a matter of 1 year. And it has nothing to do with, I'm now taking it more seriously. I just cleaned up my act about or around nutrition or training, and now this is the result of it. I don't know. I mean, you would need to be the most genetically blessed individual who didn't respond before that well, and now you've cleaned things up incredibly in order then to see those results. But even for me, who has been in the game since such a long time and knows what naturals are capable of achieving, is something that I'm very skeptical of, especially when you are an aspiring influencer as well.
Yeah, it's I totally get it. And the thought process I have is like, oh, what's the benefit of thinking about it too much? But when I also think about it, I'm like, it's because people like him then make it really hard for others to identify, like, what is a natural potential? What is realistic? And then when they see someone like that who is quite blatantly lying, they then think everyone else is lying. They look at Matt Ogus and be like, oh, he's got an amazing physique. He's lying. Little do they know he's been training for almost like 2 decades and hasn't looked dramatically different in a decade, you know? Like,
that's the thing, Steve. I think it's doing a disservice for all of the natural people out there trying to really also take a look at then Steph Noble, who was on the podcast. The podcast isn't out yet, but the way that she talks about natural bodybuilding, what it is that she wants to stand for, what she sees for the natural bodybuilding in general, and the vision that she has. I think it does a massive disservice for them people to take this stamp of approval, put it out there in a controversial fashion, and smearing basically that name of what natty bodybuilding is. Because then it becomes a joke. Then it becomes just a blatant lie that no one out there can't really take seriously anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I said it on that podcast, I think, where there was a video like from one of the shows. I think it was the UK FBA show. And someone commented just being like, lol, no one on that stage is natural. And it's like, man, like I was one of the heaviest, I think, on that stage at 175 pounds, which is heavy for me. And there was people like all the way to like 150 pounds, like at 5'10". Like, just because we're lean and show muscle doesn't mean like all that much. And it's a tested show. Like it's just, people get twisted. I think it just becomes an easy cop out, right? It's just like, like no one's actually natural. So if they're bigger than me, it's easier to just say they're unnatural versus looking into it a bit more than that and trying a bit harder maybe.
And I think it's becoming also there frustrating for the people who are truly then natties, but are always constantly being accused of being unnatty. Or they don't have any kind of leg to stand on if they aren't really being heard or taken seriously. Like, take a Benjamin, take a Brian DeCosta, take a Nat, for example, out of the UK, you know. If you say, like, hey, mate, I am natural, and even if you were to then prove it with kind of blood results, then the people would immediately say, like, yeah, but this is fake as well.
Yeah.
And it's just getting to a frustrating point where it's like, okay, what? I don't have any kind of argument that can convince you from me being actually natural, because you have made up your mind, because you've been burned by all of the fake natties out there who do it for more like a marketing and promotional reason. And this is something that's why I'm bringing it up, because it kind of grinds my gears to see something like this, a method like this, a deceptive kind of manner, destroying the image of what natural bodybuilding could be, just for your own benefits. And that's something that I have a little bit of or not just a little bit, more of an issue with, because it, once again, disrespects and dishonors all of the people who do this, and give them even a harder time.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of that discussion we had not that long ago where someone posted a transformation and they just said, like, this was down to hard work and dedication. And it was like, and what was your like PED use during this time? Because at least to us, like in that time period, the amount of muscle mass gained, it's not likely as a natural. It's pretty much impossible. But it's a great marketing tool to get clients. And then it's like, that's frustrating to see as well. So yeah, I just think a little bit more honesty would be great, but I think it's going to be harder and harder to find that. And I think for people, at least if I'm thinking about it, okay, people looking in, they need to just take time to follow someone, and then they'll get an idea of, okay, like, is this person actually legit, or are they just like talking rubbish? Because if you, again, Brian DeCosta, if you'd followed him for the last 10 years, I don't think you'd have any doubt that he was natural, because he's consistently training. His physique hasn't drastically changed. He's just continuing to eke out some extra gains. But if you just go along on the algorithm, finds a video of him posing, you'll be like, oh, he won a natural bodybuilding title? There's no way this guy's natural. It's like, he's quite literally the like Michael Jordan of natural bodybuilding. He is the elite of the elite here. So like, you don't think people like Michael Jordan exist? They clearly do. So like, that is, Brian DeCosta is the like Michael Jordan of natural bodybuilding at the moment. But people find it really hard for some reason to not think about other sports and like, oh, I'm not as good as Michael Jordan. So like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to relate to that somehow. And I can say that, like, when I got into the gym, I just thought, oh yeah, I could look like fucking I thought I could look like Matt Ogus within a few years. And then I questioned whether he was natural, because I was like, I don't look anything like him.
We all did. I thought I'm going to look like the Lily Bridges and also Dan Green at some point.
Oh, fuck Dan Green.
You know,
At least I had natural expectations.
But I was clueless. I saw those powerlifters and I just found it amazing. Like those bricks standing there lifting heavy ass shit. And I thought, like, yeah, sure. I'm with enough dedication and enough time pushing myself hard enough, I will get at least close to that point. But I was absolutely ignorant, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's so, and one of the things that frustrates me too is, even like you said, the ones who just, they think anyone who is like got a lot of muscle and is lean is somehow enhanced. You'll get enhanced guys convinced that someone who is, I would say from looking at it and assessing it, is natural, but they're convinced, and they're black and white say this guy's clearly enhanced. And because that person's enhanced, it's like they've got an authority. It's like, you might have had a really shitty response to drugs and you probably got into them really early, didn't really learn how to train and have great nutrition. I'm kind of assuming some things and maybe that's not fair, but like when people are so like 100% sure, black and white, especially in cases where I look at it, I'm like, man, you really, like, how can you be so sure in this scenario? You don't know that person at all. It's anyway, it's kind of, I think it's going to continue to be part of the fitness industry forever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we need to go. We need to do some natty or not assessments and just be like, everyone's natty.
Mate, and that's why I'm always thinking, like,
you can achieve anything in this world.
Am I just the fitness boomer who's shouting at the sky? Right? Because he's clearly doing something right, whether we like it or not. He's playing the algorithm and playing it well. I don't like it. I don't like that game. But he's playing it well, you know. So do other people as well when it comes to YouTube, TikTok, whatever, you know. Whether they do it intentionally or not doesn't really matter. But they are playing the game and they do it in a very much reasonable, in a decent fashion to at least be successful with it.
Yeah.
Is it something? Is it a game that I want to play in? No, that's not the game that I like to play. But it's also their personal preference, you know. Some people really want to accomplish this. And that's why, sorry, Steve, last but not least, that's why I think that I'm also just a boomer who's then a fitness boomer who's just talking about it and complaining about it, because it goes against what I really want to, the fitness industry and also the natural bodybuilding industry to stand for.
When I think about, like, I give a lot of credit to someone like Lane Norton, who will just call people out. He'll use great argumentation, and like that clearly has grown him and is why he is very, very popular. He's known for calling out kind of gurus who are telling you just all falsehoods and cherry picking studies and things like this, because man, he must have thick skin to be able to go back and forth between people critiquing him. And like, also, I just get frustrated when people just make stuff up. They're like, oh, you're just lying, or like all of this. It's like, man, this is like, people are quite literally brainwashed because they're so convinced about something. I noticed it even in the post that I did, not to talk about it very long, but I did a post like dangerous people to follow. And like, I got a bit of backlash on that. And I was like, man, I'm not even like, I'm not comfortable even with this level of backlash, which I think is like, it wasn't much at all. And I was like, I can't even deal with that. Like, it's just uncomfortable for me. I'm like, similar to you, where it's just like, I'll just stay in my lane. It's not worth it to my mental health. So for something like Lane, credit to him to be able to take on that bombardment that he must get regularly, because I think he's doing a great service to the industry to call out people like that who are incredibly charismatic and very convincing to a lot of people, but really don't know very much and make huge mistakes.
But I also think that Lane, first and foremost, he does it well, and secondarily, I think he is the same as me when it comes to getting into an argument. He doesn't stop until he then proves a point and tells the other person like everything that he has on his mind and thinks that is wrong with that argumentation or statement or whatever. quite persistent and stubborn probably, which is something that you need to have. It's not just the thick skin. I think it's also the kind of that persistence and stubbornness that goes into it, which is what it is that you need.
Some people enjoy it too. Some people enjoy debate and arguing with people. Just like I've heard people say they'll do it for the sake of it. They'll be controversial and argue with people just for the sake of it. And I'm like, I am completely opposite. Like, I do not want to like go into those things. And hey, that's why my content won't go crazy viral probably. Maybe you'll see me, I'll post something and then I'll just like turn off comments. Be like, fuck you guys. You can't have a go at me now. And then, I don't know, I'll get cancelled or something.
Cool. Steve, at first we were thinking like, what the hell should we talk about? I think that we made it. And I really do hope, as always, that the people enjoyed it to some extent. For those people listening who are out of Germany or who are listening to German fitness content, which normally it isn't that I'm doing this, it's just because I'm in Germany, I'm being fed that kind of stuff. And when I click on it, I'm being fed more of it. Have you noticed something similar to that? I also do think that it's not the same in the US, for example. I could be completely wrong. I don't even think that it's the same in the UK. There's this very specific thing going on right now in Germany due to also two specific brands, supplement brands, who do a fantastic job, by the way, of marketing. They have it all also figured out, but also at the same time, questionable, right? So this is something that probably isn't really seen in other countries for the time being, but also there. I could be completely wrong. Let us know in the comments section below what it is that you think about the entire kind of fitness industry, whether you like it or not. I'm curious.
Let us know, guys. Thank you for listening. As always, subscribe, thumb up, reviews, share it. We appreciate it all. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Cheers.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.